Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Pastry Day, Tone. Do you enjoy pastries?
Tony Kornheiser, you bet. I used to wear them when I worked the pole. And I think that's funny. I think that's funny.
Do people even know what pasties are anymore? Do millennials know what those are?
Joke. It's okay, so if nobody knows what they are, then the joke falls flat. But I actually think that's pretty funny today.
That's what I'm worried about. Old man references.
But you never worry when you mention, for example, Loretta Young on this show and the things that you talk about that are from 50 years ago.
I've never mentioned Loretta Young.
Yeah, Loretta Young. Come sweeping down the stairs. You said that. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Ohio State advances. James Harden is open to other teams, and down goes Duke. But we begin today with the Baltimore Ravens pounding the Dallas Cowboys last night, 34-17. In his first game back after contracting coronavirus, Lamar Jackson ran for 94 yards and a touchdown and passed for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. John Harbaugh said, quote, "It was very encouraging," unquote. Wilbon, Baltimore had lost 3 in a row and 4 out of 5. By virtue of beating Dallas, are the Ravens back on track?
You know, Tony, this to me falls in the category of not everything is a big damn deal. I mean, I know that's the job in this industry, to make everything seem like it's important. And you should tune in and you should have a takeaway or a hot take. Sorry, it's the Dallas Cowboys. You know, now in a division that has gotten better, the Giants have gotten better. The Washington football team's gotten better. Philly, I don't know.
Yep.
But there's one team that still stinks, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. So don't tell me that anybody beating the Dallas Cowboys is a big deal, or I should have a takeaway or a hot take. No, it doesn't mean anything. It means Baltimore has got a tougher game coming up, and they're going to need to win that one too. This was like a good scrimmage. I understand why the coach would say this was encouraging, but it is not relevant to the rest of us. It should not be.
So I think that Baltimore should feel good winning a game. They hadn't won a game in a long time.
Right. That's
I think this should help them emotionally. But like you, I believe that the stinkitude out of Dallas, the odor is so strong that it means nothing. They are a 3-9 team, and 2 of those wins, one win against the Giants and one where the onside kick spun around against the Falcons.
Against Atlanta.
They could have lost those games easily.
That's right.
They could have lost those games. So you take the win when you get it. But let's look at Dallas for a second. Let's look at how bad they really are. Okay, they've been outscored by 125 points. Only the Jets are worse. They are last in yardage allowed by running, 168 a game. They are last in points allowed, 33 a game. So people say, oh, if Dak Prescott were here, they wouldn't be 3-9. Dak Prescott doesn't play defense.
No.
They stink. Yeah.
And we knew their defense was stinky early on after 2-3 games. It's still stinky now that we're into mid-December. And again, Tony, I agree with you completely. I mean, if you're Baltimore, you say, wow, we were in some losing ways. We were in some trouble. We got out of this with a glorified scrimmage.
Yeah.
A glorified scrimmage. But sorry for all the people who think that the Ravens are now back in some sort of pre-Super Bowl form because they beat Dallas. Hey, shut up.
Yeah, I mean, the game coming up that they have is Cleveland. Cleveland, which we now think is pretty good.
This is a real game,
and
yes.
Yeah. If they lose that game, they fall to 7-6 and a little dicier with the playoffs. And they got a soft schedule after that. They got the Jets, the Giants, and the Bengals, so they could get in anyway. But this is a pretty big game. I just want to make one other point. Everybody wants to fire Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan. The guy with his fingerprints on this team is Jerry Jones. For years and years and years.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones, not a first-year coach. No.
The Ohio State University, Tony, will not play Michigan, but the Buckeyes will still play in the Big Ten title game. The conference this afternoon officially cleared the way for the Buckeyes to face Northwestern a week from Saturday in Indianapolis, even though the Buckeyes haven't played the required 6 games. Now, this is clearly the best decision for Ohio State and the financial interests of the Big Ten Conference, Tone. Is it also the best decision for college football?
Like, who really didn't see this coming? That the Big Ten would rig the rules so that Ohio State could get into the football playoff. I applaud this. We both said, of course they're going to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, however they get to 6 games or 5 games. Look, Look, this is a great opportunity for Northwestern. It's a chance for Northwestern to make the biggest upset of the year. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But is it good for college football? Sure, the College Football Playoff Committee doesn't want 2 ACC teams and 2 SEC teams. They want a Big Ten team if they can get it. The Big Ten saves face here because it says we sort of kind of followed our own rules. Yeah, it's good. It's good for everybody, isn't it? It's good.
Well, yeah, Tony, the Ohio State qualified anyway in terms of record, right? So Ohio State beat Indiana head-to-head. And so Indiana, that's the first tiebreaker. Indiana can't get in as the Eastern Division winner over Ohio State. That doesn't work. So Ohio State qualified winning the East anyway. It's just that, do you want to qualify them based on the number of games rule you set rather arbitrarily when you decided to come into the football season? Now, Tony, I'm going to differ with you just a little bit. Tone, I don't think college football gives a damn about Ohio State or the Big Ten. The Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC, which essentially constitute a smidgen of Midwestern football, but Southern football. They don't care, and most of the people who are watching don't care. So if you have schools only from, if you were to say, I know this is not going to happen, but if you were to substitute Oklahoma for Ohio State, would college football in the main care? Hell no, they wouldn't care. You can have 4 Southern schools in, and a great percentage of football fanatics in this country would be just fine with that. I want Ohio State or Northwestern. I want the Big Ten, but most football fanatics don't give a damn, Tone.
So I'm going to disagree with that because I'm going to say the biggest school in the country for football has always been Notre Dame, and they've got a chance this year to get in. I think Ohio State is important. I think everybody recognizes it. And I want to just segue for a second to the fact that Ohio State will not play Michigan. That's the biggest rivalry in all of college football for my money. This is a real big deal that they won't play. And this could be the end of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan because he doesn't have an extension. Everything is supposed to come up after the season. Season's over. They're 2-4. They're not going to a bowl game. This could be it.
They're done.
You know,
Tony,
this
for
could
me, I've grown up watching the game. I've grown up watching that my whole life. And so when I saw the crawl last night that this game would not be played, or whatever it was 2 nights ago, I screamed out loud because I can't imagine a college football team. But I grew up in the Midwest. And by the way, Notre Dame has tried to disassociate itself from the Midwest, so I don't care about Notre Dame. But Ohio State, Michigan, to not have that determining something, that's a big deal. But you know what?
Yes, it is.
That's Michigan. That's on Michigan. Ohio State did its part. That's on Michigan.
Yeah, but Michigan has the coronavirus all over the place, so they have to do this. Because they're from the conference that you represent that says we care about science and we care about health. Let's move on. James Harden, your boy, has left Lil Baby's birthday party long enough to show up in Houston and take a coronavirus test. That doesn't mean he wants to play for the Rockets. We know he wants to play for the Nets. Reportedly, Harden has told the Rockets he would play for the 76ers and possibly other contenders. Wilbon, what do you see in Harden's future?
You know what I cynically see? And by the way, how about that gift bag left behind, which reportedly, allegedly, like $100,000 and a watch worth twice as. How about that? I mean, you want James Harden at your birthday party, do you not? I mean, you fly him in for your birthday party because the yield is unbelievable. Now, let's go back to Harden and where he's going to wind up. Look, it's most intriguing for any of us who love watching teams and super teams and rivalries and tension and drama for him to wind up in Brooklyn. That is no question about that with Kevin and Kyrie. But, Tony, this has Knicks written all over it. This has New York Knicks who can just trade and get them. They don't have to have a three-way. They don't have to do. They can just trade and get them, right? This has Knicks. It would be like Bernard King going late in his career to the Knicks, and it was a spectacle, but it didn't mean anything to the competitive balance of anything. So, oh my God, I'm being cynical. This has Knicks written all over, don't you think?
Well, if he went to the Knicks, I would laugh because he would be completely miserable, but he would be near Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, just one borough away. He could get on a train and he could go see them. Look, if I owned the Houston Rockets, I would not trade James Harden where he said he wanted to go unless they gave me the best deal. I would say to all my possible trading partners, what are you going to give me? Let me know what you're going to give me. But I'd also say to them, I got a guy here I'm paying $40 million, and he doesn't want to play for me. So I'm not going to make him happy. I'm going to make me happy. And that's the way I think that they have to approach it. And plus, if I'm Houston, I would keep him for as long as I felt like keeping him. And if he doesn't want to play, I simply wouldn't pay him.
I don't want to. You can't not pay him. You can't not pay. Tony?
Well, if you don't perform, you don't get paid.
Leverage in this league, okay? He's going to get paid. He might not get paid a few paychecks, maybe. I don't think he's going to sit out. But, Tony, the Brooklyn Nets have the best offer to me that's going to be. The Knicks don't have anybody I want. Who am I going to get? Patrick Ewing and Bill Bradley and Willis Reed? Who am I going to get from the Knicks? The Knicks don't have jack that I want. Brooklyn has players that I want, and I could be a playoff contender with when combined with John Wall if he's healthy. So I think I would make a deal with Brooklyn, no matter how angry I am as the owner or the new GM there.
Thank you for mentioning John Wall. I almost feel sorry for John Wall. He's going to go to a team that has constituted without Harden is going to win 15 games.
Not if they make a deal with Brooklyn. They won't.
Well, but if they don't, they can win 15 games, and then he'll score 30 points a game, and it'll sound like a tree falling in a forest, and nobody will hear it. Let's take a break. Coming up, the Steelers lost to Washington. How will they fare against Buffalo?
And is it possible that Carson Wentz has fallen below Mitch Trubisky? Fallen?
Mike, why do you have to pay Harden? If Harden refuses to play, why do you pay him?
I'm saying that's not going to happen. Harden's going to play.
So you think he'll be traded before the season?
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Captain Morgan. By Captain Morgan. Part of Happy Hour.
It's time for Toss Up, where I play the role of Alabama and Mike plays the role of LSU this year. What's first?
Toss up. They play each other on Sunday night. Better team, the Steelers or the Bills?
Pittsburgh looked bad, losing to a 4-7 team in that game when they lost to Washington, now 5-7. Your boy Ben Roethlisberger looked like Tampa Tom, right? I mean, he couldn't throw the ball downfield at all, and all his receivers
were through to them. He knew what down it was, though.
They kept dropping it. That's right. They kept dropping it. Buffalo looked good. Josh Allen looked great. 32 of 40. 4 touchdown passes. But I'm going to tell you something. The line, I know you don't care about this, the line was chaotic on this game. It was Pittsburgh minus 1.5. Now it's Pittsburgh plus 2.5. And I like the Steelers at plus 2.5 because Tomlin has said, if you can't catch the ball, we'll get somebody in here who can catch the ball.
That's right.
I think it's a Sunday night game. Big lights. Big lights. I don't know how Buffalo does under big lights. Pittsburgh wins.
Pittsburgh's going to win the game, okay? And Mike Tomlin's not just a very, very, very good coach. He's a great coach. And when he said his team stunk it out a game before that, he knew what he was seeing, and he knew what he was doing. Tony, I know Buffalo's been better recently. Buffalo's been a playoff team more recently than the Steelers. But you get Pouncey back, and you get Connor back in that backfield, and on 3.5 inch, you don't have to drop back and throw it out of an empty backfield. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to return to their personality. I like Buffalo a lot. Pittsburgh's going to win this game.
Next.
Toss up, bigger upside. Mitch Trubisky or Carson Wentz?
I think it's Carson Wentz decisively. Something's wrong with his confidence level, and he's had a terrible year. He leads the league in sacks and interceptions. And Philadelphia is right to go to Jalen Hurts, who may not have an NFL arm, and it's tough to break in against New Orleans. But if you look at their best years, Mike, if you look at Wentz, he was 11-2 with 33 touchdowns and 7 picks. And Trubisky was 11-3 with 24-12. One guy needs to go to a new team, and that's Wentz. One guy needs a new coach, and that's Trubisky.
Yeah,
but I think this is momentary for Wentz. I think he's salvageable.
Wentz has had the one good year just like Trubisky. Wentz isn't just bad now. He was bad last year. Wentz has nothing. All right, the other guy on the Bears we don't want to play, he won the Super Bowl. Okay? So I don't want to hear about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, and again, it's the people who just slurp him for 4 years now who I'm annoyed with. He's not that good. Trubisky's not that good either. But Trubisky, to me, Tony, his judgment is a whole lot better than Carson Wentz. Who doesn't he lead the league in turnovers right now? Either interceptions plus fumbles.
Interceptions.
Interceptions. I mean, he's had one good year. You mentioned the one good year each one of them had. They're pretty even. Yeah. I'll take Trubisky.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take the other guy. And if I were New England and I had that choice, I would take Wentz. That's it.
Let's take either one.
Let's take one last break, but still to come. Coach K questions whether college teams should be playing basketball at all.
And what does the White Sox newest acquisition say about their prospects for this season? You know that the hoodie can coach either one of those guys. He can coach either one of them, Belichick.
No, I get that. I think that Wentz is salvageable. I have nothing against Trubisky. I think in a new city,
Drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 67th birthday, Lloyd Bernard Free. If you know him as World B. Free, the name he legally adopted when he was in the middle of his NBA career. But he is Lloyd Free on his birth certificate, and he was Lloyd Free to his teachers at Canarsie High School in Brooklyn and to his professors at Guilford College in North Carolina. Free says his pals in Brownsville started calling him World for All World in junior high because they felt All City wasn't comprehensive enough. He played his first 3 NBA seasons for the 76ers, then went to the San Diego Clippers for 2 seasons, second in the NBA in scoring there in 1980, averaging 30.2 points a game, making the All-Star team. And that's why we called him a shooting guard, emphasis on shooting. He averaged 20.3 points a game over 14 seasons with 5 different teams. Now he works as a community ambassador for the Sixers. You can see him at their home games. The question is, would we remember him as fondly if he had changed his name to Meta World Peace?
It's a great name. We talked about nicknames yesterday. This is a great one. There's a James Harden quality about the former Lloyd Free. I guess he's still Lloyd Free in some ways. Because he was early, Tony, he'd come off the bench. Early, you didn't know what kind of player he'd round out to be. Here's what he rounded out to be. He could score anytime, anywhere on the court, and there was no three-point shooting yet. World Be Free, man. Right. Kiddies, go to YouTube, look up World Be Free.
Happy anniversary, Emmitt Smith. Around this day 20 years ago, the Hall of Fame Cowboy running back went over 1,000 yards for a record-tying 10th straight season, ultimately running the count to 11 straight. Emmitt Smith is one of the greatest running backs of all time. He has the NFL record for the most rushing yards, 18,355, and the most rushing touchdowns, 164. They're not making backs like Emmitt anymore. In his day, running backs were gold. Now wide receivers are gold and running backs are lesser metals. As good as Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook are, they have just 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Ezekiel Elliott trying to get to 3. Now running backs flame brightly and they flame out. They get 2 or 3 big years and then appear to be used up. Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell come to mind. The best and most durable running back of the last 20 years is Adrian Peterson. He and Frank Gore have lasted, but nobody in the last 30 years is in the Emmitt Smith category. Nobody.
Tony, with apologies to Marcus Allen, Eric Dickerson, Barry Sanders, maybe even Franco Harris, the category of running back you're talking about, it's a real small category. Jim Brown, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, right? Isn't that it? That's all we got.
That's it. That's it. That's the list.
People have no idea. Again, YouTube kiddies, go type it in. Huh? Emmitt Smith.
And it trails to another home game for Duke. The number 10 Blue Devils lost their second game of the season at Cameron Indoor last night as number 6 Illinois beat them convincingly 83-68 in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Afterwards, Mike Krzyzewski expressed concern over the college basketball season that has so far been riddled with postponements due to coronavirus. Quote, "I don't think it feels right to anybody," Krzyzewski said. In the ACC alone, Virginia, Louisville, Wake Forest, and North Carolina State have put their programs on pause this week. While acknowledging the importance of the NCAA tournament, Krzyzewski said, quote, "Do I think things should be done a little bit differently? Yeah. I mean, a lot of kids aren't going to be able to go home for Christmas. Probably a time when they should for mental health. We're just playing through. Should we not reassess that, Just see what would be best," unquote. Krzyzewski conceded that coming out of a loss, some people might take his words as excuses, but he said, "I don't make excuses. We need to get a lot better."
Tony, this is one of those deals where more than one thing can be true. We already agreed to express the same sentiment that Mike Krzyzewski did. We've done that on this show earlier this week. But, Tony, also, Duke's, they're not that good right now. Will they be really good by March if you can have a regular season or something close to it? I think they will be, but not right now.
One omission, Pau Gasol told Zach Lowe he would consider a comeback with the Lakers, or he would play with his brother Mark, and we go quickly to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Kansas State upset by winless Division II team Fort Hays State. How embarrassing is that?
Well, pretty bad, Tony. Their head coach was not there, COVID reasons, and they had lost 2 games already to Division II teams, at least 2. Joe Judge says he's optimistic that Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, will be back against the Cardinals. Is that significant?
Yeah, he's a starter. The White Sox acquired Lance Lynn and Adam Eaton. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, Lynn played for LaRussa as a rookie. Adam Eaton was already on the White Sox. Yes, Tony, it's a big deal. They think they can win now. John Wall tells SI, quote, "I don't feel as fast, I feel faster." Your comments.
Again, he's going into exile in Houston. They're not going to win any games. Last one, breakdancing to be a 2024 Olympic sport. That's a terrible decision, right? Terrible.
Talk about a disconnect. Xbox should be the Olympic sport. Wake up, people.
Out of time. Try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcast. Now, here's SportsCenter.